My hair went crazy.
No, it looks good.
All right. Hello. Just want to make sure before I get started that everyone here did get their drink ticket. Right? Okay, no? All right, we need 2 of those. I'm going to give them, I will get them to you guys here in just one moment. Here we go, the last 2. All right.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So first of all, thank you all for coming out tonight. My name's Holly Weckler, for those of you who I do not know. Ooh. I'm excited to be here on behalf of the Detroit Blockchain Center. Adam and I worked on a grant that we got chosen out of 41 organizations. They only picked 5, and we were one of them to receive the micro grant. So we're super excited to shout out to the Digital Chamber for, recognizing state programs need some love too. So to get started here tonight, I thought I could just give you guys a little Blockchain 101 for those in the room who might not be as familiar. High level mentioned the Detroit Blockchain Center. Have you guys out there heard of the Detroit Blockchain Center? Raise your hand if you have. All right, yeah, thank you. It was actually co-founded by Adam and Nate, which I thought he was coming here tonight, but looks like we're missing him at the moment. They founded it back in 2018. And they invited me to join the ride in 2019. We did a huge pitch fest here in Detroit, where the company I was working at, Yodlee, ended up sponsoring. I had a nice moment like Preston here with his mom. My mom actually came, and for those of you who know Jason Raznick and some of the other fun fintech folks, they knew my mom was in the audience, so they started screaming, "Holly's mom!" It was pretty great, because back then they were talking about a wallet so easy your mom could use. But my mom was there, and she doesn't have Twitter or Facebook. Still does not. So, we've really been exploring blockchain in Detroit for years, and it's great to be here tonight to talk with you all. So we'll just talk, this is just high level intro, kind of what we're going to cover. I'm going to keep it pretty light because we got a panel, and then Preston will be speaking after me. So just going to give you guys a quick foundation. So introductions, as I already did, my name is Holly. Wanted to kind of talk a little bit about crypto. This is a presentation that we typically do when we're trying to get people involved. More of a one-on-one or like a group presentation. But anyone out there want to shout out their favorite crypto? I knew it. I was waiting for Grams. I knew he was wouldn't leave me there. I used to love Solana. I still love Solana, but it has been one of my favorite cryptos. We will dive into the different blockchains and their purposes deeper in our panel. But I thought it was kind of fun to discuss the very first blockchain Bitcoin transaction that happened was actually pizza. Some of you I know have come to our Bitcoin Pizza Day event that Pizza DAO sponsors, but it's a pretty fun way to actually think about how it all came together is through pizza, which is why we've got some here in the back room. So this just kind of talks a little bit about what blockchain is, gives you a bit of a diagram of the distributed ledger, kind of the boring version. We're going to really dive into the fun parts during our panel here. But for any of you out there who really want to see the actual steps and the flow, we wanted to give you that. This is one of my kind of, I guess I wouldn't say favorite things, but I think is the most interesting about blockchain is the blockchain trilemma. If you're in business, maybe food business, a restaurant, you can't be good, fast, and cheap. If you can, something's going wrong, right? And the same thing is with blockchain. Unfortunately, with blockchain, we're dealing with security, decentralization, and scalability, right? As Graham's mentioned, he loves Bitcoin, which is the tried and true, closest to digital gold cryptocurrency out there, but it's not very scalable, right? Like, do you see, a bunch of apps being built on top of Bitcoin like you do Ethereum? but Ethereum obviously didn't do it right fully either, right? Because why would Solana enter the chat, right? So I think there's a lot of different blockchains and different blockchains for different purposes. These are just kind of some high level identifiers on what kind of differentiates them, but there's more blockchains than there are ABCs. So we will dive into that a little bit more later too. And I'm just gonna leave you guys with a real world example. So a lot of time when you guys think about blockchain, everybody's thinking more intangible tokens, right? This digital money that you can't really see. I taught my nephews about it with art, and their computer money is what they call it. But I think Helium, and there's so many other examples, but it really actually shows you the physical piece where Helium is providing, like in a room like this, it would be able to provide a business extra service here as a mini cell phone tower. Doesn't actually steal people's data, but it provides business extra money and provides you better data for your experience. This is just, again, as I mentioned, a quick high-level presentation to give you guys kind of the groundwork. We will have some opportunity for questions during the panel and after, but with no further ado, I wanted to give Preston the floor.
There we go. Alrighty. Let me see. Good evening, everyone. My name is Preston, and I want to start this off with 3 questions. How many people in small businesses earn trust but are still unbankable to the system? How many properties and vehicles sit idle just because the path for their next transaction is broken? Or what if every valuable asset carried around its own verified record? Tonight, I want to talk how tokenization connects all 3. My name is Preston, CEO of Acoria, and I'm the author of the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act. So let's talk about a token. When people hear token, they think speculations, crypto, trading view, but a token represents something much more, and that is proof. Proof of an agreement, proof of a transaction, proof of history, and proof of a record. But what is tokenization? Tokenization is connecting that asset to that record. So for instance, you wouldn't put a vehicle on blockchain, you put that verified record that's connected to that vehicle on blockchain. The VIN, the make, the model, lien status. The asset stays physical, but the record now becomes tokenized and digital on blockchain. And with the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act, we will be able to use these frameworks and connect them to legal systems that already exist. Now, let's talk about what's blockchain. Blockchain is basically just a settlement layer. That says if me and you make a transaction, that happens, it's done. It's not held on a private database, but your private information is not public. It makes it harder to alter, easy to verify, and very hard to dispute. Now, when you put these things together, you get what we call a smart contract. So what's a smart contract? It's basically a rule engine. It says if this happens, then that happens. For example, you have a car for $5,000. I say I have $2,500 I give you when you fix the radiator, the muffler, and the rotor. You fix all that, I give you the rest of the money. The contract is done on blockchain. Simple. It seems that way, right? But that's not the real issue. And with the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act, we'll be able to take those smart contracts and connect them with verified rails to make those agreements verifiable for CDFIs and banks, and also connecting with bank rails, escrow rails, and stablecoin connections. So what is a stablecoin? A stablecoin is basically just a digital dollar. But what makes it stable? It is backed and reserved just to be redeemable by a one-on-one. Simple as that. So with all this beautiful technology, why are we not using it? And that's the problem. The banks need to accept it. Courts need to accept it. Lenders need to accept it. And that's why I created the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act. And it starts with 4 pillars. Pillar 1, tokenize titles and deeds to connect to smart contracts. Pillar 2, education for blockchain, smart contracts, and job creation. Third pillar, real peer-to-peer verification brought to CDFIs and credit unions. And the fourth pillar, security, audits, and opt-in systems. Now, this is not far-fetched. California has already put 42 million vehicles on blockchain for this same purpose. New Jersey has done it with 370,000 homes worth $240 billion, while West Virginia just moved car transfers from 30 days to 1. Now, in Michigan, we start small. 50 homes, 50 houses, small pilots. And we take those peer-to-peer transactions and we get them verified by CDFIs and by banks. But in the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act, companies like Akoya will be able to take that, create deal rooms, make proof packets, and turn those transactions into what we call trust scores and trust files. And take that to the CDFIs and banks and let people that was invisible now become visible. So if you made 47 transactions with Akoya, but you make none showing of your Experian, your trust score will be higher than your credit score. And when you think about token and tokenization, I don't want you to think about crypto or a trading view. I want you to think of trust, proof, ownership, and record. My name is Preston, CEO of Akoya, and author of the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act. Thank you, guys.
Right. Thank you so much, Preston. Just give us just a minute, guys. We're going to get the table here. I don't think we really need the sign behind us. Right? Do you want to? Do you want?
I mean, that's fine.
Do you want? I could put it there, but
Just throw it up, but I'm gonna turn
Okay.
the lights on. Actually.
that's what I was trying to say. I'll put it there, though, so we got it on the back. Probably just say, if you guys have a bent tall chair.
Yeah, you're in the camera view, so you're good, Holly. If you want to just sit up and have a dedicated mic, and then we can share the other two.
All right. Ooh, we're lopsided, but thank you guys for your patience as we're kind of figuring out the new space. As I'm getting situated here, I want to ask each of my panelists if they would just give their name, background, and what their the simplest definition they would give for what a stablecoin is. Go ahead. Yeah.
My name is Preston, CEO and founder of Acoria. Born and raised here in Detroit, been in the card game for 15 years. What connected me to blockchain is trying to make smart contracts for peer-to-peer transactions for basically the poor man finance. And what a stablecoin, my version is basically just a digital dollar that is reserved and back on a one-on-one that doesn't go higher, doesn't go lower.
Thank you, Preston.
My name is Edward Thompson. I'm the co-founder of Goldback. It's a voluntary local currency across 8 different states with over $350 million in circulation. And I've been in blockchain for the last 15 years. The simple answer for what a stablecoin is it is a digital token that's backed by something that is stable enough for spending. So.
I think they're saying they can't really hear you. Is that what you're
Really?
trying to gesture?
Okay.
I can fix that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now? Yeah, I think you might just have to hold it a little closer too. But yeah, so hey everybody, I'm Adam Zatarski. I mean, I'm sure most of you know me by now already. I actually just joined a new company called PayPath AI. Left Detroit Ledger Technologies, the company I co-founded, after like about 9 years actually. That was a blockchain validator and product development firm. PayPath AI is it's kind of weird right now because I can't give away all the information that I want to because some of it's under NDA, but essentially we were formed to acquire a freight audit and pay company. And basically what a freight audit and pay company is you have a shipper, so like let's say American Axle or something like that, they need to ship some goods somewhere and they have a fleet of carriers, or they contract carriers basically, so those will be like your big rigs that you see on the road or whatever, right? So they contract those companies basically to ship the goods, right? What we do is we essentially say, okay, here's your contract, right? And between the client and the carrier, the shipper and the carrier, and we essentially audit and say, all right, this carrier is trying to bill you too much based on the terms of your contract. That's not really that interesting or necessarily like blockchain related in and of itself, but if you know a little bit about blockchain, you can kind of see, where I'm going with some things, and especially as we talk about stable coins, I think it'll kind of become a little bit more clear to people about generally what we're working on. But that's what I'm doing now. I'm also a co-founder of Detroit Blockchain Center. Started that 8 years ago, and I have kind of a new brand that I do my advocacy work under just because it's more politically focused, called the Michigan Blockchain Council, which we're trying to build out into be a business league here in Michigan basically. So that's a little bit more able to do like political lobbying activities, if that makes sense.
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, and then the stablecoin, I think they actually covered it, but the thing that makes me most excited about stablecoins, I'll just say that, is that it's so good for the consumer if we actually pass Clarity Act, because we're essentially, as a retail user, going to have access to yield that we would never have access to on our liquid deposits in banks, whether that's in cash or stable coins, really, because it's going to force the banks to compete a little bit more on the rates that they give us. So I guess that's the thing that I'm really excited about. They did a great job of giving kind of the one-line sentences.
No, thank you very much, Adam. And I think I don't know how familiar you guys are with logistics and blockchain, but I think it's actually really sexy and really fun. One of the examples that I love, I believe it's IBM's Farm Fresh. product is what it's called. I can't remember the name of the seafood manufacturer. I have the case study if anyone is interested. But essentially, they started using IBM's Farm Fresh, which is their blockchain tool, which allows them to track their seafood every single spot it goes. So it's actually, it's the blockchain. It's immutable. There's nothing that you can change. It really gives you a transparent picture into what's happening, And one of these companies I had read about, their seafood was sitting like 2 days in extremely hot country on their dock, and they were having a lot of spoils. And once they implemented this service, they were actually able to see into that. So, maybe he can't share the fun and exciting parts, but I do think it's a really exciting area of blockchain that really hasn't been explored enough, and I'm looking forward to what's there. So I think we kind of talked high level a little bit about obviously what stablecoins are. Adam, you kind of started to lead into the next kind of area is can you guys explain some examples that actually matter, right? Like what you just mentioned there about actually being able to keep the yield. I think that might be a little bit above some people's understanding. So maybe we could break that down a little bit on what's actually happening and what are some use cases that, could affect any one of us in this room here today if the Clarity Act is passed and stable coins become more part of our infrastructure.
Yeah, so just to explain a little bit what I mean about the yield, right? So basically, we have banks in the United States and banks in general, right? There's a prime lending rate that's set by the Federal Reserve, and that's essentially that's the rate at which banks borrow money from the Federal Reserve, right? So they can do that. They can also take our deposits and lend them out to other people, which is primarily what the banks do now, essentially. What interest rate do you get in your bank account right now for leaving cash in there? Anybody just want to shout it out? It doesn't really matter. I can probably guess, but yeah, it's like 10 basis points or something like that, right? It's insignificant, basically. So basically, what stablecoins have allowed us to do, and the changes with Genius Act, basically so far, anyways. There's some discussion we'll probably have where this could change potentially, but. You can go on Kraken or some of these centralized exchanges right now, or even DeFi exchanges, and you can, you can take those stable coins and actually either hold them or stake them for a higher amount. And what staking means is that you just lock them up, right? And so you can get additional yield that way, but you're basically saying that I'm not going to take this money out of your smart contract, or in the bank's case, the bank's bank account deposit. So what the banks are doing essentially is that they're arbitraging our personal deposits, because they can essentially, instead of getting, lending money at the prime rate, they're lending money from us for 0.1%. And so when you see these new institutions like the centralized exchanges for cryptocurrency, they're offering much better rates because they're essentially passing on that arbitrage to their customers in a way to get adoption on their products and things like that.
So this is actually a great,
So yeah, that's the end of it.
No,
That's the high level of basically why this is exciting to me personally is because we're unlocking, 3.2% money that really should be ours, or yield that should be ours.
Well, and that's right. I want to keep going. I'm where you're at is because as I was reading earlier, so they're the banks actually aren't getting involved, right? So JP Morgan is not actually doing a stablecoin, and maybe Teddy, you might want to talk to this. I don't know if you have some thoughts about Certen from where you guys are coming from, but from what I understood earlier, it's not a stablecoin; it's a deposit coin, right? So is this the bank's way of still trying to keep in the game, or I guess maybe can you talk to a little bit about what's actually happening? Because I feel like stablecoin is such a big buzzword, but where is it actually being implemented, and why does it matter?
Yeah. So there's the institutions are getting involved in stablecoins. JP Morgan has their own private chain. I think it's Connexus, right? There's I believe they own Circle, right?
I think they're
or is it
invested in it.
invested in it? Okay.
I can't remember, bought
Yeah. But yeah, institutions are getting involved, and the Genius Act specifically places regulations on stablecoin issuance and very strong controls, which is very good for the consumer, because we're backing it with U.S. debt, and for that reason, we need to have very strong controls. And so, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Adam, do you have something you want to add?
And just to add a practical example to that, if everybody remembers like Terra Luna collapsing, that stablecoin ecosystem back in 2022, that was literally because they were backing their stablecoin in their own cryptocurrency and not maintaining like actual proper treasuries to make it stable. So that's why regulations are needed for stablecoins. Like that's a perfect example.
And Preston, is there anything you want to add to this before we?
Quickly. So that is actually what we're trying to do with the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act. We believe that blockchain in crypto or coins was basically made like for people to share peer-to-peer transactions and barter. So we believe it should be something set up to where if I'm doing a smart contract with Adam here, and I'm paying him a monthly payment on the car, $1,400 or $400 a month for 18 months, he should be able to collect the yield if that money sits there and he does it great. And I should be able to collect something in reward of me paying on time at the same time. And I think if we put something like that in the power of the people, it'll show that the economic system that we have right now could be better because it'll be more reliable on trust, and then that reward too will come with responsibility.
Okay, great. Thank you. I know we've kind of touched a little bit on the Genius Act and, the Clarity Act as well. I'd like to just kind of explore, further legislation. In Michigan, I know the crypto kiosk is a big thing that some people feel very strongly positively about, some people feel negatively. Just kind of toss that to the panel to see who would like to speak first on that.
Yeah, so basically, I would say even nationally, one of the like the state level bill that you can see getting proposed and passed across a lot of states are the crypto kiosk and ATM bills, basically. Ironically, those, I would say, institutions are generally for the regulation, at least the more legitimate ones. Because what's popping up over basically all the states is you even have like localities that are creating like city regulations for how crypto ATMs can operate within their jurisdiction, right? And so what a lot of these places are looking for is essentially uniform rules for crypto kiosks across all, each state, right? It's not going to be exactly the same for each state, but that's what a lot of the state level stuff getting pushed forward right now is like, how do we protect grandma from going to the crypto ATM, much like she would go to the 7-Eleven and buy a gift card because somebody on the internet or phone told her to, right? So that's what a lot of that's about right now, and that's actually kind of one of the reasons why, if you notice, I didn't do like the legislative update because it was mostly on Michigan. When I went and reviewed everything, I was like, pretty much crypto kiosk stuff is the only thing in Michigan that has any legs right now. We've generally not done a very good job, and that's not like any of our community's fault, right, about trying to get things passed, because we know we got Stand With Crypto here spending a lot of money, and of course us and some other people, right, trying to bring attention to these things. But Michigan itself is just a very hard state to get legislation passed in compared to some of the other states, is what it really seems like. We'll talk a little bit about the UCC, but that's one thing that I'm really keyed in on. I've been keyed in on even before I moved to PayPath, even though it's more relevant now, was that UCC and just how, like,
well, why don't we just dive into it? Let's break it down, though. I feel like you guys are talking almost above my head, and I'm moderating the discussion. So
yeah.
I think we do want to we don't have a lot of policy events. So if anyone out there, has questions too, just kind of give me an eye. We're happy to take questions during the panel. Doesn't have to wait till the end. But yeah, let's say our acronyms aloud.
Yeah, so
I know, right? I miss that back in those days. WCW.
I don't know.
all
They
the
got a lot of
wrestling
crypto
on.
sponsors, so hey. No, so I mean the UCC, it's the Uniform Commercial Code. I think the original one was passed like even in the 1920s, and then it got updated in the 1950s or 60s, and then the most recent versions 2022. And while it's not necessarily specific to crypto, it's the rules and regulations that govern interstate trade, especially as it relates to actual ownership of goods, what it actually means for a contract or a asset that's collateralized to be perfected, which basically just means that it meets all of the requirements for that to be essentially like a legal transaction in that way. And so, when we're talking about things like, let's say, I don't know, shipping goods from state to state, right? The UCC is really important, especially when it comes to large, inventory amounts or large asset amounts that are getting moved back and forth. And I'll let some of the other guys finish this up too, probably, but more or less, in a lot of ways, it tells you who actually had ownership of the good at one point, and why that matters in a lot of ways is, for the trucking example, right? If I'm shipping something from Michigan, and the truck driver gets hit in Ohio, what rules actually govern that? In this instance, it gets really sticky because Michigan's on the 1950 UCC and Ohio's on the 2022 UCC, and we don't have any way to actually handle or define transactions that include cryptocurrency or digital money. And so we actually really make our state in practical commerce in a lot of ways by not passing things like this, where like you haven't heard about the UCC from Stand With Crypto that much, or a lot of the other national advocacy organizations, right? But for actually, and there are some that are a little bit more focused on it, but when you're actually doing interstate trade, like actual real commerce, like the Clarity Act and the Genius Act aren't going to determine those rules basically for you. Like, we have a lot more work to do just outside of that from the legislative standpoint and from the rulemaking standpoint, because you can pass legislation, but then it goes to all the regulatory bodies for them to figure out the intricacies of how it's going to work. And there's a whole process for that too, and lobbying and that and all that sort of thing, right? So
Well, let's, as you mentioned, there wasn't as much interesting in Michigan. We got the crypto kiosk. Preston, I know you had a conversation recently with someone out of California on what they're doing with blockchain. Maybe do you want to share that example? And then, Teddy, if you want to share an example as well.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about UCC Article 12, which, as Adam said, is not, something that Michigan has at the moment. It's all about provable control over, the asset. And so, it's especially important for crypto to have this locked down because previously everything was done via paper contracts, whereas now we have programmable money, which is a significantly different thing, a different beast. And so, we have situations that I can foresee coming where there is a difference between what is technically controlled versus what is controlled on paper, legally speaking, in legal contracts. So, this is both a technical problem and also a legal problem that needs to be solved. And I think UCC Article 12 does a pretty good job at that. But, like I said, we do need to find some technical solutions to fully comply with all of the necessary requirements.
And what is UCC Article 12? Is that something that is nationwide? Is that something that some states have done?
Some states have it. About 33 states have it. Michigan is not one of those states.
Okay.
It's pretty much what Adam was talking about regarding interstate commerce. And I don't have the exact wording.
No worries.
But yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, Preston, can you? I know you kind of told me that you kind of got a lesson on what they were doing in California, something with cars and the blockchain, from what I recall.
The guy name is Andrew Smith. He's actually the CEO of Avalanche, who put the 42 million vehicles on blockchain. But I want to piggyback off something that Adam and Teddy said. Now, I do know with the international thing, this is something that as a Corey is trying to solve too at the same time, because we are the trust and operation layer that sits with these transactions, and Michigan is very strong for vehicles. And we like to ship vehicles overseas in here too. But right now, for cargo ships, it's like 30 pieces of paperwork. You got to have about 20 or something board members. People want to argue who owes the tariffs, right? If it mess up on this side of the Pacific or that side of the Pacific. And with that being said, I really believe blockchain, stablecoin, and smart contracts can eliminate that, right? If you could just simply program, because right now I believe that smart contracts, PDFs are the new JSON file. Right, so there is going to be no more PDF. It's going to be all JSON file for blockchain smart contracts, what I believe. And if you have something set up like that, it could be able to stop those instances where you have Germany saying, hey, yeah, the Mercedes-Benzes we sent over there was messed up on your side, not our side, right? But in this blockchain smart contract, we can have calculations with algorithms, with satellites that could be able to solve that. But yeah, that's what I was talking to the guy about, putting the vehicles on blockchain. But I want to piggyback off that because that's very interesting, because it just doesn't go with vehicles. It could be with baby formula, right? It could be how fast the medicine needs to be shipped, and all these things can be switched over with that. Yeah, great question.
Okay, great. So I think we've kind of talked, high level, and I feel like we're might be looking through rose-colored glasses right now, because from what a lot of people know, there's been a lot of ups and downs in blockchain, right? Like, how did the FTX scandal happen? how there's so many different security hacks. Like I mentioned, I love Solana, but there's a lot that has happened on Solana. Do you guys want to either weigh in on like why these big scandals like FTX, or even what happened with Binance, all of these like horrible things that are happening? Why are they happening? Is it just like we're building too fast and we don't have the security and regulations in place that are like, even as a community that are needed? And as a follow-up, like, is there anyone that is doing regulations in the States or internationally that you're seeing that is protecting consumers?
Yeah, so with FTX specifically, it was not, an issue with the technology itself of blockchain. That worked perfectly. The problem with FTX was the control over the asset, specifically like authorizations, and then also pooling all of the funds in one place. There was no segregation of accounts, so people couldn't see that their assets were there. It was just sort of a trust us, we have your assets situation. So
and what was it though, like, again, and I'm trying to kind of ask some of these questions just to get the narrative out there. What was it that happened? Because I remember I was actually in Chicago for 2 months at the Pith Hackathon with a bunch of people from FTX, all of these teams. Telegram was going crazy when everything went down. So what was the moment, the crux?
Yeah, I mean, so they had everything in basically one wallet, in Omnibus wallet, and so nobody could tell whose money was whose in that wallet. And like I said, it was just trust me, I have your money, and they were just spending the money. And it's funny. I actually met the CFO at a conference one time, and I remember walking away thinking, I don't think they know what they're doing. And so, anyway, that's essentially what happened. I mean, there's
have there been regulations that have been put into place to prevent this going forward?
Yeah. So there is. They're mandating that accounts be segregated.
And this is part of the Genius Act, Clarity Act. Where is this? Something different?
I believe it's Clarity Act. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just one aspect of these laws. I mean, they're pretty huge laws.
Yeah.
So there are other protections as well that are going into place that should protect consumers from another situation like this. And that's actually what my company is doing as well on the technical level. So.
And how so?
So we provide provable control over wallets so that you can segregate accounts, and so that you can, if you lose an account entirely, say it's completely compromised, 3 out of 3 keys are stolen, you can actually just revoke control and reassign it to a new wallet, and or sorry, not a new wallet, new identities that control that wallet.
Okay, and you have some other pretty interesting partners. You mentioned to me earlier you're on like 7 different chains, something about biometrics, I believe, right? He's acting pretty shy and modest over here, ladies and gentlemen, but he's working on some pretty cool stuff over there at Certen.
Yeah. A lot of people or a lot of companies are focusing on single chains, but we are multi-chain, and it's very easy for us to expand to new chains. And we expect to have quite a few chains by the end of the year, both EVM and UTXO, so any chain, and it should allow people to comply with the Genius Act and the Clarity Act very easily, and also protect consumer funds, especially with that revoking control aspect, and also you can implement policy engine. Automations like spending limits. So if anybody actually does hack your account, you can, put a spending limit on it so that, they can't steal more than $1,000. And even then you can set it so that it only goes to approved recipients.
Okay, so you're saying if like, all the drains that, we've heard about with people's accounts, so you're saying like you could put some type of buffer. So if $500 is taken out, like almost like a multi-sig wallet, or?
It's a really advanced multi-sig wallet. We do quite a lot more than typical multi-sig wallets. But yeah, if a co-signer that you've signed up with detects that the account you're transacting with is associated with the Lazarus Group or some other, foreign state actor or hacking group or whatever it is, it will block the transaction.
Oh, great.
So yeah, so
okay,
that's what we do.
Wonderful. And then real quick, before we get into the last kind of question, I have one for Preston here. They actually writing, trying to create your, what's it called, the Michigan Infrastructure?
Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act.
Yeah, sorry, a mouthful, but it's important, every word. What has it been like going through that process? Have you been met with the, friendly people on the other side? Has it been, I don't know, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, it's been lonely, right? Because a lot of people are now just waking up to it, and it's funny that a lot of people are waking up to it for the wrong purposes. But as creating the journey, that's actually how I met you guys, because I was trying to find a blockchain home here in Michigan, and I came and met you guys at the pitch competition for the at the pitch competition. And ever since then, it got kind of easier. But when I first started, when I first heard Trump drop the Genius Act, because I wanted to create a courier for a way to people to be able to use our smart contracts, for the simple fact of that in the car business, a lot of people around the time of tax season would love to say, hey, here's some money for a car, I'll get the rest of my taxes get here, but a lot of come back and say, I don't like that scratch or something else, right? So you wasted money and time, but if you could put that together on a smart contract, it'll be perfect. And then all of a sudden, Trump dropped this Genius Act on us being able to use stablecoins in those rails. So the travel and the journey for me creating the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act, which started back in October 2025, was lonely at first, but after meeting you guys and getting more in community involvement and learning more, I believe the process has come, I'm not going to say easier, but more of a clarifying transition.
Yeah.
No pun on the Clarity Act either. I don't know how that just came up, but yeah. And that's how the journey has been so far. Yeah, but it's actually very exciting. It's getting great.
No, thank you. I think it's we've got a pretty interesting group up here, right? You're actually in the trenches, trying to, write an act. We've got Teddy over there who's trying to protect everybody out there who's trying to create blockchain policy. And I'm going to bring it back to Adam here, who's doing top secret cool stuff in logistics at PayPath AI that we will hear about at some point. He's also, mentioned that he started the Michigan Blockchain Council to work on policy stuff. But I have to say, Adam, this is his area of expertise. I am happy to ask the questions and not have to answer them. But Adam, one thing we had talked about on our panel prep call, and I think it'd be a good way to kind of end this conversation is what is the path to good legislation, or like what do we need to do, and what can everyone in the room here, and the digital chamber with their microstate grants, like what can we all bind together to do to help legislation become better legislation?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously right now the Clarity Act has, I think it's like 15 or 16 days or something like that before it goes to a vote. It might even be less. So the first thing that you should do is obviously call your senator. Alyssa Slotkin here, right, is definitely probably the most important one, because she's still on the fence about most things, right? But her office, when I met with them like last summer, they were actually really receptive to like normal people coming in and explaining things to them, right? So the more that we can do that stuff, that's huge. Definitely do that right now. The second thing in terms of like good legislation, like that's been the other problem with the stuff that's happened in Michigan. Like most of the bills that I've reviewed have been bad legislation from the perspective of they are trying to create carve-outs for specific cryptocurrencies usually, where when you write legislation, you shouldn't be writing it as a like technology specific type of thing, or in this case, I would even say it's like almost like a company specific thing. I know Bitcoin's not a company, but if you think about like how chains operate, usually like they kind of are like pseudo companies, DAOs, whatever you want to call them, right? But like you're essentially giving an advantage to at least a network that has specific related entities that only focus on their chain, right? And so that's what I see a lot of. I haven't done too much analysis on like a ton of other states, but generally like when you see legislation getting passed, it doesn't include carve-outs. Nearly all of our legislation here in Michigan has included carve-outs in some way, and that's why I also feel like it hasn't passed, because that also confuses the legislators, because they now have to know like what is Bitcoin, why is Bitcoin different. Like they don't have time for this. Like their staffers might, but like unless you get a legislator that's like really like, I love cryptocurrency, like these people are not like going to spend more than 15 minutes of their time on it, right?
And on this, I think you and I both have been lucky to be on the other line with the digital chamber. Like we're lucky that they understand this, and they have a team of a policy team that's ready and willing to actually help you write those state grants. So I think that's just another quick just shout out to the digital chamber for basically helping fulfill what Adam's saying is the gap that we need, right? We need more people. As Adam and I at DBC, Amy helps us with events, and a lot of you people that are in the room have helped me do check-in. Jason almost had to do the cameras tonight. Go ahead. The digital. No. This is the digital chamber out of DC. So they did this year. They opened up their first micro grant proposal where they gave $2,000 out to 5 different organizations. So there's all different types of events. Some people did like a day event. We're gonna get a recap here kind of soon to I guess it's a cover what all of the different groups have done. But I think just to kind of add to what Adam was saying there about calling your senator, like there's great groups like we talked about earlier, Stand With Crypto, where they make it super easy, where you just click a couple buttons and you've got the email sent, right?
So I was asking because
Yeah.
Michigan's really unique and dumb because they allow industry to write its own policies. So Preston, you could probably run into this. Like Michigan Chamber has written out of like 12 industries. Michigan Chamber's written like 6 standards or regulations on behalf of the industry. You get other stuff like agriculture writes their own regulations, all this stuff. So the governing body always just ends up taking
Well, and yeah, and let's before we dive too deep into that, really quickly, back to the UCC. Like, so has that gone to our state? Like since you said we're on the 1950 version. Like, can we just touch on that a little bit?
So they tried to pass it in 2022, and to your point, Michigan's a little special snowflake in a lot of ways, because for our UCC, instead of passing maybe one or a handful of bills to make it work within the state framework, the way that we have to update our bills, the way that it was explained to me was basically like, any other bill that references this bill has to be updated in a very specific manner. So we actually have a package of 43 bills that have to get passed to pass the UCC. And that's probably one of the reasons why it hasn't passed yet. But, you know, for something that's really honestly not that controversial, because it's like, even the states where the UCC didn't like fit as a cookie cutter, they still like basically made the UCC 2022 amendments in the way that they had to. It's just not called that, right? So I think that actually might be Ohio technically, but there's like 2 or 3 states where it's not technically the UCC, but it does the same thing. Anyways, you would think that a bill package of 43 bills where it's not controversial would be great for everybody, because everybody can sign up to pass something that's not controversial, that's not going to hurt them in their home district, and they get to say that they did something, but we just haven't seen that yet. So.
And then does anybody want to answer his thought about why the states are not superseding the feds? Wasn't that like, am I right question, Jason?
I take that one, Jason. So I don't know why Michigan is like that. Michigan is very weird like that, and I do think that everything is boiled down to who you know. And it's the same way with the startup community. So just say if you had a startup here in Michigan, it's only could be so many ways you can do it, right? You got to be a part of alumni or an accelerator or healthcare or something like that. So it's the same way it'll be here with all laws and acts being passed. But I think the way that we counteract that is that the same way I counteract the bureaucracy here for startups here in Michigan. I went out of state to go find other people in other ways that it was done and came back. So I believe that if we have several states and several senators are teaming up all at the same time to be able to, you know, pick what's best for the people, and the legislation is best for the people, I think that'll work best. Because Michigan is one lake that all the fish don't flow in the same school, right? Like it's just crazy, right? And if we do that, we'll be able to conquer everything. I mean, we are innovation. Michigan is innovation, from World War II, helping out with that, from everything, right? So I believe that it's the fact that the bureaucracy is catered to 1 or 2 industries because of a certain group of people is something that can be demolished and just wiped out. But we'll have to like go outside of their box to be able to crush the box that they have, right, with a bigger one. So I think that's how we stop that one.
Thank you very much, Preston. Love that. I love you bringing those examples back. My grandfather actually was kind of involved in that process. Like my grandma has my late grandma has a necklace of one of the fake rubies that they like created for, anyways, different story for a different time. But yes, Michigan, we are.
Pints part of this, right?
Yes, exactly. I am seeing mine getting warm over there. But anyways, I did just want to see if there's any questions from the audience. Is there anyone out there that is dying for a policy question? Yeah.
I have a feeling that auto insurance and auto financing and banking have a big reason why some of that is happening forward.
You're definitely about right that because that's what we're trying to do here with Acquire. So we're trying to connect these different institutions, and what I found out in my journey of creating the act that some companies have already tried this. Ford Motor Company has started taking some vehicles off the line and putting them straight on blockchain. But they haven't sold them and haven't moved them, right? And they just are sitting there in this broken transaction that actually needs the people. And the banks don't want to talk to the people because last year, Jennifer had to pay $10,000 on her credit card because her son broke his arm, right? And now she has no credit no more. They don't want to look at it. But with companies like Acquire, you know, she can make those smart contracts and agreements to where, you know, even though she had a bad credit score with you guys and she can't get along nowhere, but with the smart contract, she just made 147 transactions, right, and paid them all on time, right? And any time she was late, that dispute was made through peers that put it together, not simply black and white. So I believe the way to counteract that, we have to bring a use case to them, right? So we have to say, look for it. You got all these cards you put together on blockchain. How about we get some people that have bad credit but can use smart contracts to get them? Hey, bank, we got a bunch of cards right here that Ford don't have to do it, right? And then just make them come together with the use case. I think that's how we tackle that, because the power is in the people, and then that's what the Michigan Blockchain Trust Infrastructure Act is about. It's all about people, right? And that's the reason why I created that way, so companies like Acoria have to be based off strictly trust, because we need trust to make that happen. Everybody must trust each other. But yeah, great question.
All right, is there any last words from our panelists here? Otherwise, we still have some food back there in the room for a little while longer.
And we can hang out upstairs and outside too.
Question.
Oh, all right, Angelica.
Yes, okay, you said the power of the people. Preston, crypto, Web3 is decentralized. How do we make Michigan the crypto state? From all four of you.
Well, I believe we start off small. So we take examples like California with the 42 million cars, New Jersey with the homes, and West Virginia, and we start off small with pilots, 50 homes that's sitting here abandoned, right, that nobody's doing nothing with, and then we find 50 people in Pontiac or somewhere that doesn't like going to the bank, so they want to cash their checks, but they really do make payments on their Netflix and everything else they do on time, right? And we put those people together and we take them in front of Congress like, look, this person said it's better. We just sold these homes. You got a million of these left and a million more people. Let's put all these people together as power for the people. Then we have them in front of these people like, yes, I'd rather use this instead of Cash App, or I'd rather go through this way instead of downtown and try to get a loan conventionally this way. I don't like Nebby Federal. I don't think they want to pick me because of my skin color, right? And these things that we're not going to have to deal with if we be able to bring an act like that. But great question.
Yes, I would say that you know, the Clarity Act and the Genius Act, they, I mean, pun not intended, but I'm going to use it here. It provides a lot of clarity for businesses operating and starting crypto projects here in Michigan. And so the more clarity we have, the more businesses we're going to see, the more innovation we're going to see. And so if the state legislature could provide that clarity, that would go a long way. I think Wyoming is doing a great job with that respect, you know, with their clarity on DAO structure and all of that. And so there's a lot of lessons to be learned from other states that are experimenting. And, you know, I think the policymakers should discuss with crypto founders in their states, because they know what it's like to operate here, and you know, they could hear from the people who are actually building, and I think that would go a long way too. So
I'm going to jump in real quick before Adam goes. I think, Angelica, one thing that you're already doing is you showed up today, right? So the way that we get more funding for events is having people come to the events, spreading the word. That we do have funds to do one more of these events before the end of the year. So if anybody knows anybody in government, if anybody, you know, wants to help us with the outreach for the next event, so we can actually get a policymaker to be up here speaking on the panel, or you know, maybe doing our opening remarks. I think, you know, that like all of us are all working together and fighting the fight, right? So I think that's my opinion from a community standpoint. It's like Adam said earlier, you know, call your senator, join Stand with Crypto, check out the digital chamber, right? We've got big groups that want to help states, that want to work for it, and we all know Michigan, right? No one hustles better than Detroit. So, you know, I think we're lucky. This is, for me, it gives me like goosebumps right now, like being chosen as one of 5 organizations, even just to get this grant, already shows the legwork our state is doing, right? And being a swing state, we really do have some power that not every state has. And Adam, I'll let you close it, and then we'll get back to networking.
I could give a long-winded answer, but I'm not going to because I've already given enough of those. But I think really what it comes down to is bringing Detroit to Lansing in a lot of ways. Because if you think about it, like back in 2018, I mean, even when we started the DBC and you joined shortly after, right? Even back then, I inherited the Detroit Blockchainers meetup group from my neighbor, actually, and that's how I got involved in this. Was I was helping him do like sales CRM work for his Bitcoin and blockchain workshops that he was doing or whatever, and like that was literally outside of financial media, like my actual real exposure to crypto. Before that was like, oh, this is funny money. I don't think this is a real thing, right? Like. But I we have such a powerful community in Detroit, whether or not it was, our work back in the day building up from other people's work, or now like Stand With Crypto coming in and kind of like taking the charge in a lot of the states and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. We need to bring Detroit and right outside of southeastern Michigan, Detroit, because we have the strongest community in Michigan, right? Like there's really not that much going on in Grand Rapids, and I know because I helped start the Grand Rapids group over there, right? So it's like there's still, like, it takes so much time to actually build up a community like the one that we have, and even when you look at like states like Chicago. So the more that we can get out and get people to, like our organizations, right, doing events in Lansing where it's easier for them to come to us, right? Like that's what we need to do more of. I'd really like to see more coordination between, I would say, the three major kind of like groups in the state, which is like Stand With Crypto, us, and the Michigan Bitcoin Council. I'd like to see more coordination there. We've tried to work on it in the past and hasn't necessarily gone anywhere for various reasons, right? But like, it is what it is. But I think that's going to be imperative that we figure that out, or at least there's more groups that start out that are willing to kind of like work together, because if we just go to the Hill, doesn't really, we'll take meetings, that's nice, people will talk to us, I'm sure we'll bring, some of you guys, but if we can bring 3, 4, 5, 6 groups and 5, 6, 7 major key figures in Michigan or business owners that have built a real thing, that is a lot more powerful, than even just doing events in Detroit and continuing to build this community. As much as I love it and I live down the street and I have for years and years, right? I've been a Detroiter for over 10 years, but we gotta export our crypto culture to other places in Michigan.
No, I completely agree on that. I definitely think, especially to other places in Michigan, not everyone can get to DC, right? So like you're lucky, Adam, that you've been able to, be taken out there by some of the groups a few different times. So I think what you're saying is huge and important to remember, like getting out in Michigan, and even just to think about the ripple effect. Like that event in 2019, we did a blockchain pitch fest. A company pitched they actually won Yodlee's first prize, and 2 years later, InvestNet acquired them. When I was at Yodlee, they didn't think blockchain was a thing at all. I was so excited because of our instant account verification API. I didn't realize everyone in blockchain was anonymous at that point. So I was like, yes, we've got an account. This is great. Nobody thought that was that great. But there definitely was use cases with our aggregation API and different ways that we could work together. But it really just took, I'm from Michigan. So when I talked to Adam, I was the catalyst there. I wanted to support my hometown, and then look what it turned into, right? So I think one thing I think we need to do better, and Angelica, you have been a big proponent on this, is we really need to get our videos out there. We need to get the YouTube videos. We really need to start sharing, and that's a part of what we need your guys' help with too, right? So if you guys see our posts, like them, share them, together. That's, as Adam's saying, that's really how we make that bigger impact, is if all of us work together, we're a lot more powerful that way. All right, and thank you guys for coming to our first Policy and Pints again. Thank you to the Digital Chamber for Adam, Edward, and Preston for joining me on the panel tonight. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you guys at our next event.
Thank you, Holly.
Great, man. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, I ain't seen the LinkedIn.